All right, let's get going. So you are joining the Getting Started with Mylio Photos. If that is not where you want to be, you should probably stay anyway because it's going to be a lot of fun. But that is what we're doing today. My name is JC Figueroa. I am the customer success lead at Mylio. I'm also an underwater photographer and been teaching photo organization for quite a while now. Also joining me is Lori Rubin. Lauren is a product evangelist at Mylio. She's a professional photographer and has been a photo educator for most of her career. She will be helping us as well. And a little later on, Michael Dearworth, who's one of our senior tech support people, is going to join in to help answer any questions that you might have. Here's what we're going to cover today really quickly. Here's the agenda. We're going to talk about what is Mylio Photos. Just a really quick overview. We assume that if you're here, it's because you already know about Mylio Photos, you already have read up or learned about the application, and are mostly joining us to learn how to use it and to get started with it. So we'll talk about it, but not too much. We'll talk about creating a Mylio account for those of you that haven't created an account yet, how to install and set up, and then we'll add photos, we'll synchronize devices, and we'll play around with browsing the library. And then at the end, we'll cover some resources where you can learn more about how to use the application. All right, so I already told you about myself and Lori. Let's just go right to it. Let's get started. So what is Mylio Photos? Mylio Photos is an application and a service that lets you take a lifetime of photos and videos and putting in one secure and connected library. What that means is that you can install Mylio on your computers, your phones, your tablets, add storage devices like an external hard drive or a NAS, and use Mylio's organization tools to be able to access all of those photos, all with the device that you have at hand. The device that you have is going to have the same library no matter what. So your computer will have the same library. Your phone will have the same library. By adding Mylio to all of your devices and combining your library into one cohesive library, Mylio will synchronize it, and you can always find the photo that you're looking for. You can view even the largest photo library on your laptop or on your phone. We have customers with well over 1 million photos that can pull out their phone, scroll through, or simply do a quick search and find exactly the photo they're looking for right there on their phone. We do things like facial recognition, text recognition, and we use the camera data to add geolocation and other data to your photos. Then we use that metadata intelligently to help you find exactly the photo that you're looking for. You can also conveniently edit your photos from any device. And it doesn't matter if the photo was a JPEG or it was a RAW file from a professional camera or even a scanned photo. Mylio can let you edit and work with those photos in whatever device you have. And whatever edits you do on one device are going to appear on your other devices because Mylio synchronizes those changes. More importantly, you can protect all your photos. So don't worry about ever losing a photo again, because once you set up Mylio correctly and you add at least 2 vaults, your photos are being replicated to those vaults. And the original version of the photo, the full size, full resolution version, it's always being sent to those devices to protect you from data loss. Let's talk about your Mylio account and how to get started with that. The first thing you need to do to use Mylio is create an account. Now, why do you need an account to use Mylio? Well, Mylio is both an application, a software that installs on your devices, but it's also a service. The service part of Mylio is what allows your devices to find and share data with each other. In order for those devices to know that they all belong together and that they should be sharing a common library, they need a form of identification. And that's what the Mylio account does. You use your Mylio account to log into each one of your devices. Now those devices know that they belong together in our service, and they share data that only your devices can access. And you can be at peace because when you when you use Mylio to share data between your devices, the data is not going up to the cloud to one of our servers and then back down to the other device. Mylio simply tells the devices how to connect to each other, and the data moves from one device to another directly. We establish a peer-to-peer connection between the devices. So how do you create an account? If you haven't already, you go to account.mylio.com or simply go to our website, mylio.com. It will give you the opportunity to enter an email. Once you enter an email and a password, you will create the account, and that will be your Mylio account. You can manage that account for the duration of the time you use Mylio by going to account.mylio.com. You can see it right there on the top of the browser window. And once you're in your account, you can do things like change your subscription, download the application, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You'll see a lot of different options when you log in there. So sometimes people email us at support asking questions about managing their account without realizing that you don't need us. You can do a lot of this yourself by simply going to account.mylio.com, logging into your account. So let's get to the installing Mylio part. How do you install the application? Well, like I showed you in the previous slide, you click that big download button. So if you're on a Windows computer or on a Mac, you log into the account page, you click the download Mylio Photos. That is going to bring an installer right into your computer. If you're using a mobile device, you simply go to the App Store for that device. So whether it's the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, search for Mylio, download it, and there you go. The application will be installed in those mobile devices. On your computer, look in the downloads folder for either a Mylio MSIX file. You can double click that file and it'll install the application. If you are using Mac OS, there'll be a file called mylio.dmg. When you double click on that file, it'll open up a folder that says drag to applications. You drag it to the applications folder. It'll all be in one window and the application will be installed. Once you install on a Mac, be sure to eject the Mylio DMG file. You won't need it anymore. All right. Initial setup tips. Let's talk about the different questions that Mylio is going to ask during the setup process. And then we're going to move away from the presentation for a second. And I'm going to show you actually what this process looks like. But the first thing Mylio is going to ask you as you're going through the setup process is to choose a Mylio library folder. And a lot of people don't know what we mean by that. What is the Mylio library folder? Well, the Mylio library folder is simply the default location where future imports are going to go. So this is just the default location for future imports. It's just a place that you're telling Mylio, this is where I want you to put my photos. It might be that you already have a folder that has a lot of photos and you want that to continue being the location for your photos to reside in. You can pick that folder or you can create a new folder. And I'll show you this next. So let's very quickly go here to, I've already went through the process of installing Mylio. So I'm simply going to launch the application. And let's make this full screen so you can all see it. And when you first launch Mylio, it welcomes you because we tend to be very polite. And when you click next, it's going to ask you for that account that we created when we went to the account page. So be sure you have that information handy when you're trying to add any device. Here, I'm going to type the name of my account. In this case, it's jcdemo1@mylio.com. And I'm going to type my password. And then you can just click continue. If you don't have an account, you can click here on sign up, and that will take you to the account page where you can create an account. And if you've forgotten your password, you can also reset it. When you click on reset it, that will just take you to the password reset site. You just type your email and you'll get an email that will help you reset your password. So Don't despair if you forget your password. It's easy to reset it. But once you've entered the correct information, you can just click continue. Mylio is completing the setup here. Oh, sorry. I think I did this wrong. So we're going to have to reset this account. Bear with me one more time because I didn't take you to the correct process. So I was using this account yesterday to do some training internally. And I didn't clear it. So bear with me for just a few seconds and we'll try this again because I want you to see that process of creating and selecting your Mylio library folder. If any of you have made the mistake of creating Mylio in the incorrect way, or if you ever want to reset Mylio, this is the process you go to. You unregister all of your devices. And then when you unregister the last device, Mylio is going to prompt you to do a factory reset of your software. So that is what we're going to do. And we're going to try this again now that the account has been resetted. So apologies for that. Let's try that again. jcdemo1 at mylio.com. And here we go. Okay. Mylio wants to know where your photos are stored. So if you already have a folder of your photos that's completely organized, you can tell Mylio at this point that those photos are already there. It might be that you already have a hard drive, an external hard drive. It has all your photos in it. They're organized into folders exactly the way you want. You don't want to move them. You just want to use Mylio's organizational feature to browse those photos in different ways with the different views we provide. Or you might want to synchronize all those photos across all of your devices. So if that's the case, you can use that existing library. So when you set up your first computer device, not a mobile device, but your first computer device, Mylio is going to ask you for a Mylio library folder. And this is the place where we can say, okay, I have an existing folder. So again, if you have a folder either in your computer's internal hard drive or on another piece of storage that's attached to the computer, you can go and select that folder. In my case, I'm going to create a new folder. And if your goal is to consolidate photos from a lot of different locations, and you're just starting, and what you want is to have as clean a library as possible, but also to save all those photos, perhaps to an external drive, I strongly suggest that you start with a new folder. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate today. I'm going to create a new folder. And when I click next, Mylio is going to give me one option. It's saying my test account here in Mylio. In the user's test account, Mylio folder is where that library folder is going to get created, the Mylio library folder. You can change that location by using the Finder, or if you're on a Windows computer, using Windows File Explorer. But I'm just going to use the default location. So Mylio is completing the setup. And now that it has completed the setup, it says, all right, we did it. It shows you where that folder is. Mylio on home directory, Mylio pictures. So I'm going to switch to the Finder here. And I'm going to open a Finder window. And I'm going to show you exactly where that folder resides. If I go to the internal hard drive of my computer, for those of you using Windows, that will be your C drive. And I go to Users, Test Account here. There is, let's move that to the trash. There's a new Mylio folder here. And inside that folder, a Mylio Pictures folder has been added. That is now my Mylio library folder. And you can call it whatever you want. You can change the name of it if you don't like Mylio Pictures, but that is going to be the primary or default destination for your photos moving forward. All right. And now Mylio is giving us the option of adding the sample library. The sample library is just about 600 photos that we keep in a special cloud location. And if you don't want to use your photos to test out Mylio, if you want to play with our sample library to get to learn the application, you can install that first. And it's really very easy. you just click this button, install sample library, and Mylio is installing those photos in the background. It's also showing me a few important things when I first open the application. One is how to monitor activity. This little icon with the little waveform monitor, that is the activity monitor. You will see that have a green circle around it when there's some activity going in Mylio. Like for example, if a import is happening, you can click on that and get more details on what the activity might be. You can also click the plus sign to add more media. So if you don't know how to add more media to Mylio, just click there and it'll walk you through the steps. And it also tells you about the dashboard, which is the administration view for Mylio. This is where we find things like our devices and other areas that we might want to take care of. The getting started section here is just a guide. You don't have to complete this setup process 100%, but if you click through each one of these items, it will guide you through different parts of the application and help you get set up in the most optimal way, but it's completely optional. So I'm going to double click here in the folders and notice that it created the sample library. And as I click to these photos, I now have a library that actually has media in it. If I go to my calendar view, I can actually see there is the sample library. When you're done using the sample library, you can go to the help menu, see the little question mark here, Mylio, and remove the sample library. And once I do that, those photos disappear and you're back to a clean account. So let's quickly go back to our presentation and pick up where we left off. So we created a new folder. We talked about the sample library already, but now we can keep going and doing more things like adding more media, et cetera, et cetera. For those of you that are not familiar, I'm gonna go back to Mylio. And by the way, you can install that sample library at any time. So I'm gonna go back to the help menu and add that sample library again. And I'm gonna quickly show you the different views in Mylio. The first view you see here is the all photos view. That is going to show you every single photo that you have in Mylio. Right now, these are all sample photos. We haven't imported any of our own photos yet. There's a few things that you should know about the interface. This little slider down here, let's make that easier to see. This little slider lets you zoom in and out. So if you want to see bigger or smaller thumbnails of your photos, that's where you can change that size. And we have different views, including the calendar view. This is where you go to find photos based on when the photo was taken. You use the map view to find photos based on where a photo was taken. The people view is where you will start the tagging process for identifying photos. Notice that the sample library already added a few albums of photos here. When you first start with Mylio, if none of your photos have been face tagged before, they'll all show up in this bucket that says on tag. But if you click in there and click on any photo, you can turn on face tagging and start identifying the photos and give the photos names. Like I know this is Rich's son, Michael, so I can type his name. And as soon as I start typing the name, Mylio knows. So more about that in our manual. And there's also a lot of videos that teach you how to do face tagging. Today, we're trying to stay with just the getting started steps, but the people view is where you go find photos based on who is in the photos. Albums is where you find photos based on what is in the photo. And these are containers that you create yourself. Mylio is not going to automatically create these albums for you. You decide what albums you want. And then last but not least is the folder view. Notice that the folder view now in Mylio has the two folders that we created that are in an account, the Mylio inbox. That one's always created for you by default. And then there's the Mylio pictures. Had you chosen a different folder as your Mylio library folder, like, a folder called My Photos, you would see that folder here instead of Mylio Pictures. And if the folder lives in a different device, if it doesn't live in this computer, it's shown elsewhere. Notice that this is share content because it's a sample library. So that is where the folder view happens. Couple more things that I want you to know about because they're really important. One is the More menu. It's up here on the top right corner of the screen. When you click there, there's a lot of information, particularly information about how the photos are being displayed. For example, I can change the sorting order. I can sort by name or by date in ascending or descending order. I can also do things like turn annotations on or off. You see those little drop pins showing on some of the photos? That tells me that a photo has geotag data on it. That is what we call an annotation. And those can be turned on or off. So if I click here on GPS, the little pins will disappear. If I turn it back on, they'll come back on. So anything that has to do with how you're viewing your photos is likely going to be found in that More menu. This is also where we find the settings for Mylio. So if you're wondering how to change a setting, go to the More menu, and that's where you find them. The other important menu that I want you to know about, I'm going to zoom in on this photo a little bit. Let's click this photo of dolphins here. Let's say that I want to do something with that photo. If I'm on a computer, I can click the right mouse on my mouse, the right button on my mouse, and I get this little pop-up menu. That is called the Action menu, and it can also be found on the bottom right corner of the screen where it says Actions. Same folder here is the same menu there is the menu that you get when you right mouse click. And there's a lot of useful commands here. Like if I want to select all the photos, I can click on that. It selects all the photos for me. I can move this photo to another folder. I can add it to an album, etc., etc., etc. Lots of things that I can do from the Actions menu. So two important menus to know. The More menu, three little dots on the top of the screen, and the Action menu, which is the little menu on the bottom right corner, also accessible by right mouse clicking on a photo selection. All right. Adding photos. That's probably why most of you are here. So let's talk about that really quick. When you go to add photos to Mylio, I already told you about this little icon here. You know what? Before I start, I'm going to remove that sample library again. So let's go here to the Help menu, remove sample library. So we're going to have a clean slate once more. And notice that when your library is empty, Mylio gives you a button here to add your media. It's the same as if you click that button. Different options for adding media, if depending on where the photos are. If you're on an Apple device, on a Mac OS device, you have the option of adding Apple Photos right here from the bottom of that menu. If you're on a Windows computer, that option is not going to appear because there is no Apple Photos version for Windows. That's what that option is not there. The other two options, however, are there. If I click Select Online Media, this is where I can add photos from Instagram and Facebook, as well as from a Google library or from Flickr. And if I click on any one of those, the software will give me instructions as to how to proceed. It's really easy. So just click on one of those and follow the on-screen prompts. For Google specifically, if you click the I need some help, it will open the Mylio manual on a different screen. And let me bring that screen over. And you'll be able to follow those steps yourself. So here's the browser window that it opened, and it just takes me to the steps of adding a Google Photos library by downloading what Google calls a takeout file. All right, but what I want to do is I want to add photos that are accessible from this device. So I have a external hard drive here called Source. I'm going to click on that hard drive, and I have a folder with a bunch of photos folder from photos from 2021. That is the first folder that I want to add to Mylio. Once I select that folder and I click open, Mylio is going to give me three options. I can link that folder to Mylio, and that means that Mylio is not going to move the files from where they are. They're in an external drive right now, so it'll keep them in that external drive. It'll make that external drive part of your Mylio ecosystem, but the original versions of the files will remain where they are. Your other devices will get optimized versions of those photos, and they'll all be part of your Mylio catalog. You can also copy or move those files. And this is what I recommend if you're consolidating your library. Just make sure that you have enough storage to bring all your photos in. And if you copy them, those photos will go to the specific device that you have designated as being a vault. So let's talk about that a little bit. Before I import these photos, let's say that I'm adding a lot of photos, and that what I want to do, which is what most people want to do, is consolidate all my photos into one device. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the dashboard here. I'm going to click on devices. Notice that the only device in my account right now is my Mac Studio. I'm going to add an external drive. I have a Seagate drive that's completely empty. I click next. Mylio tells me that it'll add this drive, and that it will store all my files in the original quality in that drive. And I just click finish setup. All right, so now that drive has been added. And notice both of my devices now say Vault, but my Mac Studio doesn't have a lot of storage in it. So I'm going to change the device quality from being a Vault. And remember, a Vault in Mylio means it's going to save everything to that device's storage. So if I keep my Mac, or in your case, if you keep your laptop, for example, as a Vault, everything that you import into Mylio will get copied to the internal storage of that device, which might mean you'll fill up the drive pretty quickly. So I'm going to change that to auto optimize. Now Mylio is not going to keep all the originals in my internal drive. It'll put a smaller version that doesn't take a lot of room. And instead, the originals will go to that vault. So I'm going to apply those changes. And now I have two places that my photos are going to go. The internal storage of my Mac will have optimized versions, not very big, but they'll look great. And my vault will save all of the other files that I'm adding from everywhere. So if they're being downloaded from Facebook or from Instagram, the original files will go to that external drive, but my internal drive won't get filled up. So now let's go ahead and add photos accessible from this device. I'm going to select the same folder, click open. And instead of linking them, I'm going to copy them. And I like doing a copy because, number one, I know exactly where the files are being moved to. If I do a lot of linking, then my library is not in one place. One folder's over there, one folder might be in another drive, etc. If I do copy, especially once I've set up a vault, like my external drive now, all the photos are being moved to that drive. So for those of you that are trying to consolidate your photos and having them in one place, this is a good way to go. Mylio will still catalog everything, and they'll still sync a version of those photos to all your devices. But if you want all the originals in one place, this is what I recommend. Notice that one of the options here is exclude suspected duplicates. That only happens when you do a move or a copy, not when you do a link, which is another reason why I like doing a copy, because Mylio will look at the photos, and if there's duplicates, it'll only bring one of them. I'm going to go ahead and say copy now. The photos are being imported. They're being put in my Mylio Pictures folder because that was the place that I said the photos should go. If I open that folder, notice it created a folder called 2021. That was the name of the folder that I selected, and it has 72 photos in it. And automatically, those photos are being organized in all my other views, like the calendar view. If any of those photos had geotag data, they would also show up in the map view. Doesn't look like any of them did, etc., etc. And now we've done it. All right, really, really quick. The other place that we have a lot of photos that we might want to import is our phone. So that's where we're bringing next, because a lot of you have photos on your phones, and I want to cover that before my voice completely gives out and I can't talk anymore. So how do we add other devices and other photos that might be on a phone, right? Let's cover that really quick. I'm going to go here to my dashboard again. And this time I'm clicking on devices, and notice that at the top of the device column, there is an add button. So I'm going to click that and you'll see here that Mylio shows me the different kinds of devices that can be added. One of them is phone or tablet. Now, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. We just put that option there to make it easy for you, because if you click on that, you can point your phone camera to that QR code there, and it will take you directly to the App Store and it'll download the Mylio app. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to, for those of you that are looking at my camera, I'm going to point my phone to that QR code, and it's going to take me to the App Store and download the Mylio app for me. Then all I have to do is, on my phone, download the app. It's downloading. And right here on step 3, it reminds me what account I'm using, because you want all your devices to be on the same account. A common question that we get from users is they end up creating multiple Mylio accounts, and their phone is on one account and their computer is on another account. And at that point, they can't see each other, because remember, that account is what authorizes those devices to talk to each other through our service. So if those devices are not linked into the same account, they're not going to see each other. So be sure that you're doing that. So now I'm just signing on to that Mylio account on my phone, and I'm going to enter the password. And what you'll see is that phone is going to pop up here on the computer, and you're going to see it on the screen in just a second. For those of you that are going to try this, a couple of quick tips. When you first log into the Mylio app on your mobile device, the first question you're going to get is, do you want to add photos from this device? And you want to say yes, unless, of course, you don't want to add the photos from that device. But for most of us, the answer is going to be yes. The next question is going to be whether to allow access to some photos or all the photos. And I recommend that you allow access to all photos, because that will allow Mylio to connect and bring in photos that you take in the future. So make sure you allow access to all photos. Once you do that, you'll see that phone shows up in the same account, and it'll start synchronizing all the photos automatically. There it is. There's my iPhone. And if I go to my folders view now, notice that not only do I have the Mylio Pictures folder where I've been importing other photos, the Apple Photos folder has been added, and the photos from my phone are being imported into that device, including our little cat Scooter there. And if I go to that external drive, you'll see that in the external drive now, that Seagate drive that I added as a bulk, there's a Mylio folder there. If I open that folder, there's my Mylio Pictures folder with the 2021 and all the originals. And then there's the Apple Photos folder with my iPhone library, and all the photos that are being imported from that phone are going to automatically show up in that phone as well. So we did it. We officially added media from a computer, from a hard drive. We added photos from a smartphone by just installing the app and logging into the same account. I talked to you about Facebook, Instagram, Flickr, and Google Photos options. By the way, just to be completely transparent with you, Facebook and Instagram decided they were going to change the way we connect to them. And they didn't tell any of the third-party applications. So we're having to fix an issue with that. But we are going to release a new version of the software either later this week or early next week that will have that fixed. So if you try to install Facebook or Instagram right now, it will not work, but that issue will be fixed by next week. All right, we added devices. So I already showed you how to add external drive. Adding a NAS or cloud service is very similar to how I added that device. Of course, adding Mylio to your computer, you just download the software, and on the tablet or your phone, you just install the app. We work in all operating systems, Windows, macOS, Android, or iOS. And for more help, this is where you can go, because these are all of the resources that we have. By the way, you can go right into the Mylio app, and those resources are also listed here. The how-to guide will take you to our manual. If you join our community, there's tons of recordings of webinars. There's lots of educational content. The Mylio Fundamentals course is the same video that is a 90-minute video that will take you step by step on how to use Mylio. Lots and lots of resources here, including Contact Mylio support, which I recommend you do it from the app, because when you contact support from the app, we actually get logs from your system, and that really helps us to analyze what the issue might be. We don't get any personal information. We don't get your photos or anything else. We just get a bunch of what to most people looks like gobbledygook, but we can look through those logs of errors and help you determine what's wrong with your system. So be sure to contact us through that process. So there you have it. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you next time.
You're a
Absolutely.
trooper. Thank you. Bye-bye.